Neither does it mean the security forces of the masjid. Neither does it mean the idaratul masajid, the administration. You make ta'awun with them, you cooperate and you obey and work together for the sake of order. But you don't cooperate and obey like you have to when you talk about the imam of a country, the imam of a barakallahu fikum, official Muslim land. La, this is different. And this is why when the verse was revealed, if you go to Tafsir ibn Kathir, Tafsir Imam al-Tabari, wal-Qurtubi, any of the great mufassirin of Tafsir, they make this clear. Ulul amr minkum, al-ulama wal-umara. The presidents, the kings, the khalifa of that whole land. Why? Because this is what Prophet explained during his time when he was the leader. And this is what he laid down for the ones that come after him, Khulafa Rashidin. And this hadith is clear, to obey them and to bite onto their way with the molar teeth. And when you talk about ulama, it is clear, ulama wal qada, the judges and the ulama, they fall under the jurisdiction of ulul amr minkum, of the khalifa, of the amir, of the sultan of a country, not over imam and a masjid, which he doesn't have any jurisdiction. He leaves the masjid, is over. He doesn't even have the same juice as the governor or the councilman or politicians, for example, in City Hall. Doesn't have the same juice. So how is the obeying him put in this category? It's put in the category, as we mentioned before, by taking evidence, an ayah or hadith, and you use it in a way to call to something other than what it's meant for. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, قَوْمًا يَسْتَسْنُونَ بِغَيْرِ سُنَّتِي. People that will seek to set and bring about a sunnah, a way that's not my sunnah. وَيَحْتَدِي بِغَيْرِ هَدِي. And they will seek to guide the people by other than my guidance. تَعْرِفُ مِنْهُمْ وَتُنْكِرُ. So get to know of them and disapprove of the actions. And this was from the benefits that we had from Usooluth Thalaatha, 3 fundamental principles, by Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, explained by Samahat Shaykh al-Imam Abdullah ibn Abdul Aziz ibn Baz. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يتقبل منا وينفعنا بما سمعنا إنه جواد كريم إنه على كل شيء قدير وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى to make what we heard beneficial and applicable to our lives, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is generous in compassion. If there's any good I said, then it's from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If there's any mistakes or shortcomings, then that's from myself or an Iblis. La'natullah alayhi wal ayadhu billah wa astaghfirullah alladhi la ilaha ghayruh. Now, Bab Mabtu, inshallah, Maftuh, the As'ila. The floor is open for any questions around the topic, and then generally speaking. Afdal.
Like you said, the first of those 4 things that you talk about was the seek ilm, right? The seek ilm. And the second one was.
We didn't get to the second one.
That's
yet.
right. That's
yeah,
right.
The first one is just ilm, but of course, to seek the ilm,
right.
And to seek the ilm, barakallahu fiqh, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning His rububiyyah, anything containing who He is.
That's right, rububiyyah.
And then the second thing, al-ibadah, al-uluhiyyah, what contains submission to Him, obedience to Him, loving Him. And then the last one, al-asma'u wa sifat, al-asma' from the word ism. So right. Asma' is names, and sifat is from the word wasfin, which means to describe something. So this is the first part of the ilm that you should seek. Now, you're correct, and then you have the ilm of the Prophet. As some people of knowledge, they have mentioned, this doesn't mean just the way the Prophet looked, his hair, how he walks, that's part of knowing the Prophet. But also the way that he lived his life, the way that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam worshipped Allah ta'ala, how he understood Islam, the creed, and all of these different things from etiquette, adab, mannerisms, and the likes. All of this is inclusive of knowing the messenger, knowing your prophet. If a person just knows the prophets from the Arabs, it looks like this. He had a part between the middle of his hair, and he was this height, without knowing how he worshipped, how he prayed, how he fasted, how was he in the house with his wife, how was he with the elderly or the orphans, then he doesn't know the prophet. If he takes a statement of an individual up over the prophet's statement, if some people of knowledge, they have made false principles, and they say, if you go against this principle that the sheikh made, then you go against that principle of the sheikh. But that principle of that sheikh might go against the authentic hadith. So which one do you take? Do you take the principle of the sheikh or the hadith that's authentic?
You take the hadith.
Barakallahu fiqh, you take the hadith. But you have people that have made these kind of principles in religion, and they think this is following the Prophet, but it's not following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is the first part that Shaykh mentioned, yani ma'rifatullah or ma'rifa, yani nabiyya sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because this is the shahada. This is la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And it doesn't mean every single aspect about the Prophet, every single aspect about Allah, you have to know the deep details. But the things that are fundamental, the things that are the basis of Allah's creed and believing in Him, a Muslim has to know. He has to know the basic things about the Prophet that he roots the whole idea of him being a prophet. You have to know. Did he learn the Bible from the Christians, for example? A person has to know that. You know, the Prophet ﷺ got revelation from Allah. If he doesn't know that, then he doesn't really know the Prophet ﷺ. Was the Prophet ﷺ from the Arabs or not? A person has to know that. If he doesn't know that, think the Prophet was from the Europeans, was from the Chinese, he doesn't really know the Prophet. But aside from that, how the Prophet prayed, how he used to remember Allah on his tongue or in his heart, what was his description of his fast, how the Prophet used to make Hajj and Umrah, how he used to deal with the neighbors, how he used to issue the charity. All of these things are important too, and as it relates to knowing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, so this is the most important thing, and the Prophet mentioned in the hadith that's authentically reported by Anas ibn Malik in the Sunan ibn Majah. He said, "Talibul ilm, talibul ilm, talibul ilm faridatun ala kulli Muslim." Seeking knowledge is a obligatory obligation on every Muslim. So some of the companions and the tabi'een that were asked, what kind of knowledge? Because that's a pretty vague statement. Oh, that's on our shoulders. We got to seek knowledge. People were like, what type of knowledge? Because knowledge was a lot. They replied back, Wahbin, and the likes of Wahbin said that they heard from the companions that the knowledge that you need, that's a necessity to worship Allah, then this is what's binding on you. Anything above the necessity that makes you Muslim by statement and action is extra. Anything that will aid you, or the thing that in essence makes you a Muslim and makes you a Muslim who have some type of worship to Allah, then that's what's binding on every Muslim. For example, Ma'rifatullah. Again, how you going to worship a Lord that you don't know? How you going to have fear of Him if you don't know that His punishment is severe? How you going to have hope for His mercy if you don't know that His mercy is near? How? You have to know these things. So, and the Prophet as well, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how you going to receive a message from a Prophet that you disbelieve in or you don't have a love for? قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. Say to them, Muhammad, if they claim that they love you, O Muhammad, if they claim and that they love me, Allah said, pardon me, claim that you love Allah, follow the one that Allah sent to you with His message. Because that's going to show that you're appreciative you're like, we're glad that Allah, as we say, looked you out, sent the message, could have left you astray. It's going to show that you have a sense of urgency about the message, and following the Prophet is like following Allah wa ta'ala. Yani, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah An-Nisa, فَقَدْ عَطَى Allah. Now, it is equal, it is like being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مَنْ يُطِعِ الرَّسُولِ فَقَدْ عَطَى Allah. Whoever obeys the messenger, he is obeying Allah. Whoever obeys the messenger, he has obeyed Allah. So what do you think the opposite is? Whoever disobeys the messenger, what?
Disobeys Allah.
Yeah, disobeyed Allah. So when you talk about the difference between fuqaha saying what's sunnah and what's ba'ur, this is something that, mashallah, tabarakallah, they have came with, again, principles, qawa'id, that go against the book of the sunnah. And this is from the issues of ra'i, opinion, qawl and fulan, statement of an individual without evidence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam. Allah azza wa jalla is the best knower. Now, some of the advice, and then we'll close out, that the ulama of the past and the present they give us when it is said about the knowledge and the vastness of the knowledge. They say to the students, ibda'a bis-sigar kibar. Start with the smaller knowledge before you start with the higher knowledge. Start with the lower levels of knowledge before you start with the higher levels. Because if a person starts with the higher levels and he doesn't have the lower levels, then his knowledge is not going to be knowledge. As the lower knowledge doesn't mean in a way of belittling, but it means the foundation that the higher knowledge stems from and is built upon. So this is one of the advices that ulama give the Muslims in general, particularly the students of knowledge. As you find a lot of fighting and arguing, Allah musta'an, between the students, between the people who are busy with knowledge because they jump to areas that we shouldn't jump to, and we all have done it from time to time. May Allah tabarak wa ta'ala guide us aright. Wallahu musta'an. So this is an advice that the ulama they give when they talk about knowledge, that we should start with the foundations, work our way up. And likewise, a person shouldn't bite up more than he or she can chew. Take what's easy for you. And like this, la yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah didn't place on you a whole bunch of things in order to burn you out. He didn't place on you, we say loosely, more than you can bear. But sometimes we take on more than we can bear. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala didn't legislate that. He legislated for us ma tayassar, that which is easy. And this includes from the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge of His Prophet, and the general knowledge of the Deen of Islam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair.